This is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast, hosted by Prokopchuk, bringing you all things digital marketing, tech, business, and motivation. What's stopping you from becoming relentless in all aspects of life? Are you ready to become a digital savage? Let's get into today's episode.
Hey everyone, this is Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast. Today I have with me Monique Shurray. She's an entertainment journalist and media personality for Christian entertainment. She has 15 years of experience in the field of media as a radio personality, TV host, writing, and production. But most of all, she loves genuinely connecting with others through media. She teaches business-based podcasters how to grow their audience through the power of guest interviews. And a quick fun fact, she is a newlywed and a self-proclaimed foodie. So thank you for joining me and congratulations.
Thank you, Roman. Yes, newlywed, just married on New Year's Eve, actually. So it was a wedding, reception, and New Year's Eve party. So
nice, 2 in 1. I'm actually having a vow renewal this Sunday, 5-year anniversary. So
congratulations to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So how did you get into what you're currently doing, and what are some of the things you've done along the way to get there?
Well, my love for media really stems from my father. My father is a well-known radio DJ, well-known radio personality, and voiceover artist. And so my mother is a fashion designer. I can't sew whatsoever. Okay, I can't sew anything. But my love for media really just kind of stemmed from my dad. So I went to college with the initial thought that I would become a television news anchor. So went to college, freshman year, taking the classes, sophomore year, everything's good. By my junior year, as I really started to get into the classes for broadcasting, things just kind of shifted with me. Because, you know, with the news, there's always something negative or being reported. And I just really felt heavy. Like I just felt so heavy reporting over this stuff constantly. And so I just decided that I wasn't going to do that. But the only problem was I was set to graduate the following year. So now it's like, okay, so what are you going to do? Well, shortly after that, I was introduced to this guy named Phil, and he actually owns a Christian entertainment company. And he had an idea to produce a television show that highlighted different artists, and he needed a host. So we connected. I got my first paying job doing media while I was still in college. It was like $75 an episode, which was great by me. And the show aired locally in our city. And so that is really how I started out, you know, in the media field. And then I said, hey, you know what? This is great. And I can show others, you know, how to grow their businesses using media. So now where it was before, you needed to be on the radio or television, with the advancements with like digital media, you can podcast, you can live stream. And so I just want to really kind of empower people to do that, just to kind of share their message and their voice.
No, it's great. And obviously we're on a podcast, so the power of voice and podcasting is great. And now there's no barrier to entry. If you want to be a music artist, you have SoundCloud and other means, Spotify to monetize, you have podcasts that get distributed. It's no longer that like your barrier to entry is controlled by like 5 old white dudes that, you know, have a say in all of the media stations.
Exactly.
So how are some of the things, I know you're helping people to grow their businesses. Is that kind of the business you have now? Is that a side hustle? Is that something you're focusing on full time? Is that what you're trying to build?
Right. So as of right now, it's on the side, and it is something that I'm building. It's done through courses, through webinars and things like that. And, you know, especially like we talk about, you know, digital media, you know, you can have classes online, you know what I mean? And so that's really what I'm focused on now.
No, that's awesome. And I actually had another journalist on the podcast, and she made the same distinction where all that negative news, she was just tired of it reporting on negativity, and she had to pivot away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what's one thing that used to be a flaw that you turned into an asset? So a character trait, something you may have been bad in that's currently helping you, but you may have not been as strong in the past.
Oh, that's a good question. It is
Stumps everyone.
Well, okay. I'm gonna say determination. Now I know that you're like, well, determination is not really a flaw, but I'll give you a quick story. While I was in college, headed back to college, and the dorm room floors, I just could not stand those floors because they were cold and it was always like dusty. So the whole thing was always to get like some carpet to put, on the floors. So we were headed back there. My parents were taking me, and my mother, she was just kind of over the whole thing. It was like an hour drive, and she was just like, there's this piece of carpet that I wanted to take with me. And she was saying, no, Monique, it can't fit. Let's just go. And so I'm like, no, I need this carpet, because I knew that if I didn't get it in the car at that time, it wasn't ever coming with me. So I said, no. So she said, no. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So it's like this 12 by 12 big old piece of carpet. I get down there and I roll it up and I carry it to the car and I stick it in there, and I have to drive all the way to school like that with the window open, wind hitting me in my face, whatever. I got it down there. The thing about me is that sometimes, I could be so determined that it's kind of hard to pull me away from things that I really believe in. You know what I mean? And so that's where the flaw comes in at. But on the flip side, it is an asset, because sometimes you just have to keep going. You have to roll up your sleeves and say, okay, I believe in this. I know this can work. Let me keep going. So it could go either way, honestly. A lot of times it works in my favor, but sometimes I've had to say, you know what? Okay, I've tried. This is not working. I have to pivot. Let's do something else.
No, I agree. I think having determination is very important. And as you mentioned one thing just now, the pivoting is very important. So the pivoting is you fail quick, you learn, and you move on to something else with those experiences in hand.
Exactly.
So what's kind of something that you may have moved away from? Not necessarily a failure, but you saw it wasn't going anywhere. Maybe it was a dead end and you pivoted. You're talking to me on a podcast, maybe something like you said, you moved on from like traditional journalism, or didn't want to do that, something that you moved away from.
Well, something that I moved away from. So I had a radio show not too long ago, actually. And I loved being on the radio. Again, like I said, my dad was a radio personality, so I didn't really know how much I would love it, but I really did. And I had to kind of move away from it, because at the time, I was planning a wedding, and then I was launching my business and things like that. And it became too much, and I really want to focus on helping business owners that want to grow their audience through podcast. And so I just had to move on from it, and it was bittersweet, but it was for the best, and so it's just something that, hey, seasons change, your life kind of changes, and you have to be able to accept the changes and just kind of adjust. You know what I mean? So that's definitely one thing that I had to pivot from, but now I get to help so many people, and that's definitely a blessing for me.
No, I agree. And I think as one grows older, more experience, has more things under their belt, their focus may change, or the level of importance certain things have in their life changes. So I think it's important to pivot in that sense when you were focusing on your wedding, that next chapter of your life, and you moved away from the radio focus.
Yes. Mm-hmm. My husband's happy about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, in terms of helping businesses through podcasts, the importance of podcasts and how they can grow their business through podcasts, do you focus on businesses starting their own podcasts and help them get on podcasts as well, or do you focus on a specific niche?
Specifically, what I focused on is guest interviews. As you may know, guest interviews are so powerful, and just to connect with others, to collaborate, it really increases like your engagement with your listeners. It increases visibility. I mean, guest interviews are so powerful. And so I help business owners that, they have a podcast, they want to start podcasting, to scale their podcast through guest interviews. And so that's what I really, really focus on, how to, conduct an interview. You must, different things you need to do. You need to listen. You need to, have an outline. I mean, just different things, to help a business owner scale their podcast, because business owners, they want more business. You know what I mean? They want to, they want to know what their customers want. Okay. And podcasting through guest interviews is a great way to learn that and to do that. So that's really what I focused on.
No, that's great. And it's really important, the importance of getting on podcasts as well, because as a interviewee, you have the opportunity to be exposed to a whole new audience. The podcast host has the opportunity to be exposed to the interviewee's audience by them, promoting that episode. And then the audience itself benefits from the content itself and that level of expertise.
Yes. So that I'm telling you, I mean, and, I posed a question on my Facebook page yesterday, and I said, business owners and entrepreneurs, what is stopping you from starting a podcast for your business? And by far, the most popular answer was time. So now I'm just thinking, how can I provide a solution for that? Of course, you can outsource the recording and the editing, but of course that would cost. So if you're going to spend time or money, you know what I mean? But if it's important enough, if you can see the value in it, you'll make the time. And so that's what I want to just kind of get that point across to them.
No, I agree. So what's one thing you can leave with the audience advice in terms of professional or personal?
You really cannot be afraid to put yourself out there. It takes courage to do something different. It takes courage to start a business, to start a podcast, just to even be yourself. It just takes courage. And I just want people to know that it's okay. I grew up in New York, in the heart of Harlem. And so, you always had people selling whatsoever. And it just takes a lot of courage just to put yourself out there. But I just want people to know, don't be afraid of that. Go for it. And it's okay. You will have people that want what you have, that want to read your book, that want to come to your event. You may not pack it out the first time, but that's okay, because you're gaining experience and you are forming relationships. So I would just say, have the courage to do it. Whatever that it is for you, have the courage to do it.
No, I agree. I think that's step one. Obviously I started this podcast. I have the background in digital marketing, founding an agency, that kind of thing. But with the podcasting, I've always wanted to do it, listening to people like early day podcasters like Joe Rogan and people like that in like 2013, 2014. But it was kind of hesitant if I didn't have the time, the expertise, the audio editing. And then I just learned everything myself and then decided to do it. So I agree with you. Doing something and kind of getting over that hump and having the courage to do so is one of the first kind of barriers to entry in anything that you want to do or overcome.
Exactly. Let's get out here and do it.
No, I agree. Well, I really appreciate your time and thank you for coming on today. Can you tell the audience how they can find you and some of the things you have going on?
Sure. So if you are a business owner and, you're thinking about having a podcast or scaling your podcast through guest interviews, I have a freebie for you, free download for you. You can reach me at MoniqueShurray.com. That's MoniqueShurray, MoniqueShurray.com. I like to give away free things, so got something special for you.
Yeah, free is always good.
Yes, it's a good 4-letter word right there.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. Without Anchor, I don't think I would have ever started a podcast. It's so easy to use, and I record most of my episodes from my phone. So if you always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
This podcast has been brought to you by Nova Zora Digital. Find out how Nova Zora Digital can help your company grow online. Learn more at novazoradigital.com. Until next time, all you digital savages.